Hi, I'm Chris Goodman, and I'm an Alteryx ace and innovator.
And my name is Joshua Burkow, and I'm also an Alteryx innovator.
Welcome to Alteryx.
So, excitingly, last night, Alteryx released Designer 21.2. I was taking a look through the release notes and I wanted to do a short video showing you some of the new features. So let's jump in and have a look at some of these new features. So there's an addition, or kind of a bit of a change really, in the Intelligence Suite tools. So previously there was a PDF input tool which enabled you to read in PDFs and then OCR them to extract the text. But now this isn't limited to just PDFs. You can use PNGs, JPEGs, whatever you want. So they've changed the name to computer vision, so you can bring in these tools. So that splits it out onto a different palette. There's also now a separate installer for Intelligence Suite. So if you don't have that license add-on, you don't need to install all of those tools. So the install file for sort of base Designer is now a lot smaller. I installed it last night and it was really fast doing that. If we have a look down, the three main things that I want to kind of talk to you today about are the improvements to the results grid. So there's now data cleansing built directly into the results grid, so you can cleanse your data, so remove trailing white space, change the case of the data within those fields, and then apply that directly to your canvas. Then there's also a new feature which was requested quite a lot on the Alteryx community around converting parts of your Alteryx workflow directly into a macro. And then there's also an update which will help improve the telemetry of your workflows. So being able to identify the sort of genesis of that workflow and how it's changed over time. So there's this new workflow ID. So let's have a look in Alteryx and what this looks like. So what I've done is I've just loaded up a sample workflow. If you haven't done it before, if you click on help, there's sample workflows and you can look at them one tool at a time and get example workflows of how to configure particular tools, or you can build out more complex workflows. So here I've got this one for calculating a field. If I run this workflow and look after the append tool, we can look in the data and we can see that the city field is highlighted red. This is because there's a trailing or there's leading white space. So what we can now do in this results pane is we can click on the three dots and there's this new option for data cleanse. So we can say that we want to remove unwanted characters. So we want to remove leading and trailing white space. We apply that. And then we can hit the tick mark here, and what this will do is it will add it directly into our workflow. And we can see that now it's put a data cleanse tool in and it's saying the field we want to cleanse is city. And what we want to do with that is we want to remove any unwanted characters. So we want to remove the leading white space. So that workflow has quickly or the interaction with that results pane has meant that we can now quickly add these features into our workflow. The next bit I wanted to show you was the ability to build out macros directly within your workflow. So I'll run this workflow. And previously, if I wanted to do a macro, so here we've got this filter for a zip count being greater than or equal to 10. If I wanted the user to be able to configure that through an interface tool, I would have to go out into a new part of the workflow. I'll take some of this data. So I'll just quickly show you how I would have done it previously. I'd have taken a snapshot of this data. So we'll copy that data in. I'd go into a new workflow, I'd paste that data in, I'd convert it to a macro input, I'd then bring in my filter tool, filters there, select the field, so previously it was greater than or equal to 10. And then I'd have to put a macro output tool on the end. Let's here. There's two outputs. And then I'd want to go in and allow the user to change that. So I'd put something like a numeric field, connect that in, put the allowed values, so go from 1 to, I'm not sure what's in the data, but 20, increment of 1, and default it to 10. And then we change the action tool here. And then we'd save this down, etc., etc. So you can see that that's not a massive long process, but it does take some time. So if we jump back to the workflow here, what we can now do is we can just right click on this tool and select convert to macro. You get a pop-up to say which icon do you want to choose. I'll just select the blue circle. Choose where you want to save that macro. I'm just going to put it on my desktop for ease. And then click OK. And as simple as that, we've created a macro, so you can see that tool has changed. And then it opens up the workflow with the macro tools on that. So all we would have to do to get the same functionality is add in that interface tool. Save that workflow and jump back into here, and now we can see we've got that configuration to set that value. So we set that to 10. So kind of a very simple thing, but I think it will start, users will start finding that they can save a lot of time by just very simply right clicking on a tool, saying start building me the macro, add on the extra functionality, and then saving that for you. So that was that new feature. And then if we just go into a new workflow, we can now look at the sort of workflow unique identifier. I have this set to see the XML view of my workflow. And I'll just expand this just to show you quickly. There's now this additional block in here. So we've got our origin workflow ID. And we've got up here the workflow ID. At the moment, because this is the same workflow, or the first time I've opened the workflow, those ID identifiers are exactly the same. We can build out a workflow. I don't really need to do this bit, but let's actually paste in the data from before. And if I just go to File, Save As, Browse, save this as a new workflow. Let's put it on my desktop and save that. If I go back to the workflow and look at the XML, scroll down here to find the section that I want, we can see now that we've got a previous workflow ID and our origin workflow ID. So this is a new feature added into the XML. I think it would be great for telemetry. So if you want to understand how workflows have evolved, or you want to kind of track usage of particular assets, you'll be able to kind of get this essentially fingerprint or DNA for that workflow and be able to track that usage through, and you can see what your users are doing with it. So that's a very quick walkthrough of some of the new features. Please check out the other bits. There's obviously updates to the tools on the Intelligence Suite. The install files are now a lot smaller, so go check it out. And it's also the first day of Inspire, so hopefully there'll be lots of new things coming out in the keynote later today. Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Click here to subscribe and click here to watch more videos.